Hello everyone, this is Nick Perry at Schaeffer's Investment Research with your chart slideshow for Thursday, April 19th. Today I'm back with my weekly check of the broad market indices. In last week's chart slideshow, we talked about the pullback to short-term support. If you look at the SPX here, basically, you had those prior peaks, and we'd seen a break above that and a pullback. Same thing on the Dow, right here at that level, the comparable results, and the rut, which is slightly different in its overall pattern but was still more or less holding above short-term support here. So basically, I left saying I didn't view that support as all too significant. If we saw a breakdown, basically it's a spot where you would expect to see buyers who were hesitant maybe ready to jump in there, but I wouldn't view a breakdown at that level as all too significant. But I ended the overall chart slideshow by saying that the overall constructive pattern still seemed to be in play. When we turn to this week's charts, we see that short-term support was a little bit more significant than I gave it credit for, because we saw a pretty nice rally off of that. Of course, that's being a little overly simplistic as far as talking about the significance of it. But basically, the idea was that that was a logical place to see buyers jump in, and it appears for the most part that they jumped in with both feet. And basically here is that short-term support there. This is right around in here. This bar right here is where we were talking about that. And now we've got this little pop here that overtakes the old peak on the SPX and gives us the new annual high. A look at the Dow chart pretty much shows the same thing as the SPX. We had short-term support there. We see a rally off of that, and we see a break above the peak there, though it's a fairly minor break above. When we turn our attention to the comp, we see that, again, we've got a rally off short-term support, the difference being that the comp hasn't yet broken above that peak there. So from that standpoint, if you look at basically this is a big consolidation zone here, the comp hasn't really broken out. It's just at the top of its range, but I wouldn't call this a concerning chart pattern. Basically, we just haven't seen a breakout yet. It just hasn't happened. We're technically still in that range. It's a little bit of a sloppy range depending on how you define it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And when we turn our attention to the rut, we see once again a bounce off support, sort of this zone in here. Rut did push up into this peak, ticked above it, but backed off a little bit, so it's sort of closer to what we see on the comp here. Basically a rally up into that former peak, and then a slight hesitation right here. As far as overall takeaways, I hate to sound like a broken record here and saying the same thing week after week, but basically this still looks like a constructive pattern. We had the big sell-off that we've been discussing for the last few weeks. We've had the rally back off of that. We're now pushing up into new highs. It's a little bit quicker than I would have expected to see. So part of me is still wondering if maybe we won't see a little bit of a pullback and some sort of chop around that. I wouldn't say that has to be the case. That seems just intuitively to me. That seems logical when you see the hard drop and then the snapback rally to maybe see a little bit of a fake out. Maybe that doesn't happen, but it wouldn't surprise me to see a little bit of a pullback here just to sort of keep people on their toes. It tends to be, we don't tend to see trends just go and take off and just keep going, though there is definitely precedent for that, so maybe I'm wrong on that. But anyway, that's what I'll be watching next week. As always, stay tuned to the blog for further updates.